Okay, I know I am very, very late on getting this review up for you guys. I apologize for that. Had a pretty eventful couple of weeks, was dealing with some personal matter. Want everyone to know I'm fine, I'm okay. It just kind of took me out of my video making for a little while. But I'm good now. It's time for me to finally talk about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So let's do this. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the newest Marvel TV show to premiere on Disney Plus following WandaVision. You guys have probably seen my review for WandaVision. I really enjoyed that show, and I was really excited to see what another Marvel show could bring. And just like WandaVision, this movie takes place sometime after the events of Avengers Endgame. This mainly focuses on the final scene in Avengers Endgame when a really old Steve Rogers passes his Captain America shield to Sam Wilson, basically saying, it's your time now, you take up the mantle, you become Captain America. Basically, the gist of this show revolves around this. It's been about 6 months since that moment in Avengers Endgame. Sam is currently having doubts about whether or not he's worthy of being Captain America. He believes there is only one Captain America, so ultimately he gives the shield, hands it over to the US government to be placed on the, museum, preserve, or I don't know what it would be. Whatever museum it is that displays all the Captain America stuff, they're just going to put it with that. On the other hand, you have Bucky, who's still recovering from his, time being the Winter Soldier. He's cured from the code words that they were using to, make him that, but he's still dealing with the pain that he caused and the people that he hurt. Meanwhile, while all that's going down, a group of terrorists known as the Flag Smashers are going around causing absolute mayhem. There are these group of people who want to get back to how times were during the blip, during the 5-year period when, the world was decimated. How is the U.S. responding to that? Well, basically by hiring John Walker to be the new Captain America, equipping him with Captain America's shield, and all that good stuff, which now has Sam feeling extremely betrayed. Now the Falcon and the Winter Soldier have to team up to make everything right in the world again. There will be some spoilers in this review, because I gotta talk about certain plot elements that I liked or didn't like, so that's going to be here, so be ready for that. First of all, let's get into what I like about this show. Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie, they both kill it. It's great seeing them both kind of emerge from being the sidekicks to the people in the forefront, being the main characters of this story. That's always a concern going into shows like this. Part of you wonders, like, okay, can some side characters become the main characters? These guys absolutely can. They really hold their own in the show, and I love their chemistry together. Because the thing that I would always take away from Sam and Bucky's relationship is they were kind of, the two people who had a mutual best friend in, in the case with Steve Rogers, he's Bucky's best friend. He's more of a mentor to Sam, but the point is, because of that, the two of them would always interact, but they never really got along. They never really saw eye to eye. But, now there's a cause going on they both believe in. Now they kind of have to squash their differences and learn to work together. And I really liked seeing that go on in this show. At times, it's funny because they just don't always get along. They see things differently. They bust each other's balls all the time. But you do see a real progression in this. They're both trying to help each other adjust to the issues that they're dealing with. They're both trying to help each other grow as people, as the leaders they need to be. This is a show that really humanizes its two heroes. And that's what I've always appreciated with the MCU. It humanizes the superheroes so we can connect to them. Gotta talk about this though. Along the way in the show, they end up teaming up with Helmut Zemo. That's right, Daniel Bruhl, who played him in Captain America Civil War, he's back. And I actually really liked having Helmut Zemo back. I thought he was a really underrated character in Captain America Civil War. And what I liked seeing here is he's not a villain. In this case, he's more of an anti-hero. You're not really sure if you can trust him. The characters aren't really sure if they can trust him. But these Flag Smashers, who have some sort of super soldier serum in them, and they're causing havoc around the world, they're like, if there's one thing we know for sure, Helmut Zemo hates super soldiers, and he's going to want to put a stop to them. So, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It was good seeing him in that role. I liked seeing him more in action. I liked seeing more of what he was capable of doing. Again, I like seeing that he has these differences with these guys, but I do like seeing more of his story, more of his side, where he's coming from. Because I've always said this before, in Captain America Civil War, I never really saw him as the villain of that movie. I've said it before, in that movie I felt like the villain is just whatever side you weren't on. In his case, I always saw him as more of that just kind of, dark, anti-hero, not even really anti-hero, just like a dark, neutral, damaged character. And here you see more of it, And in this one, you see that he's not really a villain necessarily. He just has these really strong stances and strong beliefs because of pain he has dealt with. The other character I gotta talk about in this movie is Wyatt Russell as John Walker. I haven't seen this guy in a whole lot. I remember him as, you know, the guy that Channing Tatum becomes buddies with in 22 Jump Street. But looking at him and seeing him play this character, I was like, this guy is the perfect role for it. Because he does kind of look like Captain America, you know, good looking, you know, presentable, you know, decorated army soldier. You're like, yeah, you could see why the U.S. government wanted him to be Captain America. But right at the gate, you meet the guy and you just don't like him. Part of it is because, you know, it's like, oh, well, it's not my Captain America. But there is something about him that does seem a little bit douchey, a little bit cocky, and you're just like, I feel like at some point down the line, there's going to be a reason for me really not to like you. And what I do love and appreciate seeing in him is he does have an obsession with really becoming Captain America. I mean, he's like, yeah, I have the shield, but I don't really feel like I am. The world doesn't view me as that. He's like, these guys, you know, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they'll never see me as that unless I can get them to. Which leads to what is easily the best episode of the show and one of the biggest holy shit moments I can remember from not just the show, but I would say any moment in the MCU. At one point, he's able to get his hands on the super soldier serum. He takes it himself, and you know, there's the old saying, it's like, the serum only makes you more of what you already are. And when his partner gets killed by one of these flag smashers, he chases after the guy who he thinks killed him, and just takes Cap's shield and just beats him to death with it. You see blood all over the shield, the world is watching him, and you're just like, holy fuck, we just went there. That's some of the darkest shit I've seen in an MCU movie. I thought we saved that for DC. What I could kind of appreciate with that is he is dealing with a lot of pressure and taking up the mantle for Captain America, being hand-selected by the government to do that. You feel like there was pressure in him and he just wanted so badly for people to see that he was capable of doing it, but unfortunately it just became too much for him and it kind of broke him as a person. At the end of the show, they do turn him into U.S. Agent, which I have heard is a legit character in the Marvel Comics. I don't know too much about him, but I will be interested to see if he plays a role in future Marvel movies or Marvel shows. It could be interesting to see how it plays into the MCU. I will say, the action in this movie when it goes down, it's really well done, it's very well choreographed, it's great. The fighting scenes are always awesome. But, you know, that's kind of what we've come to expect in the MCU. That's pretty much all the pros I have with this show. Now I'm going to get into some of the cons. This is an extremely political show. I think it's very fitting that it is. Because, you know, you're dealing with, you know, a Captain America-ish kind of show. A movie like that probably, or a show like that, I'm still getting used to that, you know, MCU having shows, and I'm still used to saying movie. It's a show. It's a show. A show that is based off of Captain America should probably have some politics in it, especially with how modern day typically is. I will say, the area of politics they bring up that I actually appreciate is when Falcon confronts an older black man who used to be a super soldier himself. He was very badly mistreated by the government. He tells him, it's like, they will never ever let a black man be Captain America. They will never ever let a black man be the face of that shield. And to a point, you can understand why. You know what black people's history is in America. You know how black people are occasionally treated by society at times. They're not always looked very favorably. And I think it illustrates more to why John Walker was chosen to be Captain America, because he's this good-looking white guy with a clean record and a big, you know, military resume going for him. Sam has a military resume going for him, but at the same time, he's just not, I guess, what America is looking for. And the reality is, you want to say, like, oh, that's racist. It's like, I mean, it is, but if we are being real, if America was going to do something like this in real life, they probably would choose a guy like John Walker over Sam Wilson. That's why I truly love the ending of the show when Sam finally gets his shield back and he gets outfitted by the Wakandans with a new Captain America suit, and he's finally being referred to as Captain America. I love seeing that with Sam. I love seeing his progression in the show and him finally graduating from sidekick to superhero, going from Falcon to Captain America. Because that is the area of the show that I did appreciate. It's like, doesn't matter what skin color you are, doesn't matter what you've done or what you have accomplished, you can do anything if you can get people to believe in you. And that's what Sam realizes. He led by example, he demonstrated through action, and he was finally anointed Captain America as he was supposed to be. I will say, the area of the show that I didn't like politically was what they tried to do with the Flag Smashers. These people were terrorists. I'm sorry, I know they address that in the show, like, it's not right to call them terrorists because, we don't understand their cause or whatever it is, but I'm sorry, you ask me, they are terrorists. And they are an example of how a lot of protests typically go here in America. I'm sure I might get some backlash for saying it, but, some protests out there, regardless of whatever it's for, have led to buildings being destroyed, innocent people dying, and, it's because, when you send a message, some people won't hear it if you try to demonstrate it peacefully. Sometimes people feel that in order for a message to be sent, it has to have more of a catastrophic effect for people to feel it. That's what the Flag Smashers are trying to do, and that's what they are doing. They are destroying buildings, they are killing people, they're holding people hostage, they are doing whatever they can to get the world to see things from their eyes because they believe they're right. And what I didn't appreciate with that is they're trying so hard, particularly with the leader of this group, Kylie, they're trying so hard for you to sympathize with her, namely, and feel for her and eventually root for her. Now, some people who maybe share her ideology to a degree might be able to get more on board with her. Me, being someone who's not like that, I was never able to get on board with her, and the show was trying so hard for you to do so. And that's why I gotta be honest. When she died in the show, eventually she's killed by Sharon Carter, who I'll touch on in a minute, I felt nothing. In fact, I was kind of glad she did, because I saw her as the villain of this show. And because of that, I could never get on board with her. It was kind of like what they did in WandaVision. Wanda was essentially, in many people's eyes, the villain of that show. She took a town, held it hostage, and made it play house with her. But we know who Wanda is. We know she's damaged. We know she's hurt. In a lot of ways, we were not rooting for her to be killed. We were rooting for her to change. We were rooting for her to get back on the right track. And eventually she did, and, we're all like, okay, great. Things are getting better for her. With Kylie, I never felt that way. I was like, nope, I think you're evil, I think you're a bad person, I'm never gonna see you eye to eye. It's just, I think you need to be finished. I was rooting for her to be finished, and she was, and when she finally was killed, I didn't feel sympathy like I feel the show wanted me to. The other flaw I have is I feel Sharon Carter was a little bit shoehorned into this show. We finally find out what she's been up to. She's been hiding from the government because of how she aided, Steve Rogers and Sam in Civil War. So she's basically become this power broker who is basically doing deals for money regarding the serum with various different people. Eventually she finds her way back in the U.S. at the end after Sam promises to get her name cleared, which he does. And then the final scene in the show is her on the phone with someone basically saying, oh, hey, I can get a lot of money out of this. You don't know what it is, but you start to think, oh, is Sharon Carter a villain now? I was never really against the idea of her coming back, but I didn't like the idea that, A, she was used so sparingly in the show, or at least it felt that way anyway. But I also didn't like the idea that they're going to take her and turn her into a villain. I mean, it became pretty obvious that she was the power broker from the beginning of the show when they kind of, acknowledge who that is, or at least, things like third episode in, they kind of acknowledge that. It's pretty obvious that it is her. But I just don't like the idea of her becoming a straight-up villain. I think it just goes against kind of what she stood for. Granted, maybe we'll get a little bit more backstory behind what finally broke her or anything like that. I do hope we see more with her story. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, which maybe we'll get in, further MCU projects. So all in all, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a really well done show. I really had a good time with it. Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan crushed it together. I love their chemistry. I love the character development that went on with both Sam and Bucky in the show. I thought both really grew more as characters. I thought they both really became standout heroes. They went from sidekicks to superheroes, and that's what I wanted to see. I thought Helmut Zemo was a great addition into this show. Kind of wish we saw a little bit more of him. I mean, he's in it for half the season, and then he just kind of disappears. I don't know, I would have liked to have seen more of him. I was really enjoying having him on the show. John Walker I thought was an interesting character. I liked seeing the struggle that he's dealing with being Captain America and him slowly kind of slipping into madness and trying to become him. Loved the action in this show. I appreciated the concept of the Flag Smashers. I guess I just didn't really love the execution in them, particularly with Kylie, the leader. The political aspect of the show was definitely hit and miss for me at times. I don't know how that could go for you. I guess it all depends where you stand. But in the end, I think this was a very ideal show for particularly Sam Wilson and him truly becoming Captain America. I thought it was very ideal for Bucky in officially alleviating himself of the pain he dealt with as a Winter Soldier. And I'm excited to see where the show ultimately takes the two characters going forward. That's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. And as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.